First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rokakwadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well, and a sincere salutation to all the Akim pushing his truth and sincerity. So as you see on the screen here, it says Biden addresses nation on Russia/Ukraine crisis. And you can check this video out. It's on CNN, on YouTube. And this is basically Creepy Joe, okay, giving America's stance on the whole situation, okay, with Russia and Ukraine. And so that I don't get a copyright strike, I'm gonna go ahead and read the transcript of what he was saying, and you can find that on the White House .gov, and this is the article right here. You can look it up when you have time. Okay, so basically, let's read it, because I like to go into these when they like to address certain situations, because you know, it gives a lot of insight into what they're planning to do. All right, biblical prophecy, and I like to filter it through the scriptures. Okay, so let's start here. It says, because this is about more than just Russia and Ukraine. It's about standing for what we believe in. Okay, and I'm picking up about halfway through his speech, but this is the transcript. Okay, so it's about standing for what we believe in, for the future we want, for our world, for our liberty, for liberty, the right of countless countries to choose their own destiny, and the right of people to determine their own futures. Okay, and he's basically speaking about Ukraine. Okay, Russia does not want Ukraine to join NATO. Okay, because basically that would make basically Russia a little weaker in their area, with the country so close to them joining NATO. And NATO okay, is backed by the US. Okay, so let's continue. It says, for liberty, the right of countless countries to choose their own destiny, and the right of people to determine their own futures, for the principle that a country can't change its neighbors' borders by force. Okay, so basically they're saying that Russia shouldn't be changing their neighbors' borders, and they're talking about when Russia basically invaded Crimea. Okay. Okay. And the reason why Russia invaded Crimea was because the Ukraine broke apart from the Soviet Republic. Okay. After the USSR was broke up in 1991. Okay, and you can read that in this article right here. Okay, a simple guide to the Ukraine-Russia crisis, 5 things to know. Russia invaded Crimea because basically a Ukrainian president that was leaning towards the Kremlin, okay, leaning towards Russia, was rejected because the people protested against him, because you know, Ukrainians, I guess, really wanted to go with to NATO, with, you know, they wanted to go with the West. Okay, you see, they wanted to go with the European Union, I should say, not the West, but the European Union. Now we know that the European Union, okay, is those 10 horns. Okay, the beast is NATO, and the 10 horns is the EU, and America is the whore, written in Revelation 17. Okay, and this all plays out in biblical prophecy, but basically it says here Russia responded by annexing Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula and throwing its weight behind a separatist rebellion that broke out in Ukraine's east. So, you know, you had people that wanted Ukraine to stick with Moscow, to stick with, you know, Russia. But, the Ukrainians, they went with the EU, which America backs the EU, okay, and NATO. They're all, forces together, which America really tells them all what to do. Okay, that's why the horse sits upon the beast and the 10 horns, which is the NATO and the EU. So Ukraine broke off from, the Soviet Republic with Russia, and so therefore, they protested against this Ukrainian president, and Russia responded by basically annexing the Ukrainian Crimean Peninsula. Okay, and then a war broke out, okay, in East Ukraine, and that's what happened. Okay, that's the whole reason why this conflict still exists to this day. Okay, and that little rebellion that broke out was because you had some people that still wanted Ukraine with Russia. Okay, but as you see here in this this White House transcript, they say that they believe in the future of our world and for liberty, okay, the right of countless countries to choose their own destiny and the right of people to determine their own futures, for the principle that a country can't change its neighbor's borders, okay? They saying that that Russia can't change its neighbor's borders by what? By annexing the Crimean Peninsula, okay? Because Russia sees Ukraine going to the EU and NATO, okay, that's backed by America, as like a security threat, okay? It messes with their interest in the region, okay? And they feel like NATO is undermining their security, okay? That they're threatening Russian territory. Now let's get this scripture. America does it all the time. Did not America, let's see. Let's find it this way. I don't want to make this too long, but it's a lot. Okay. It's a lot when you go into these different Psalms 55 and 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Okay, so who is America to say, okay, or put their nose in what goes on in, in Russian territory, man? That's a whole different side of the fence. Okay, that's a whole nother thing right there. But they say they're doing it for what? They're doing it for what? For liberty. It's about standing for what we believe in, for the future we want for our world, for liberty, the right of countless countries to choose their own destiny. Okay, but what about the Native Americans? Okay, when the so-called founding fathers of America came, did they give a damn about them? No, their words were smoother than the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. So who are you Americans to say anything about what these countries do? Hey, let them see to their own affairs, right? But that's why it tells you in Habakkuk 2 that he heapeth unto him all people. Okay? So it says, that's our vision, and toward that end, I'm confident that freedom will prevail. It says, if Russia proceeds, we will rally the world to oppose its aggression. Okay? And really, these devils are really infringing on Russian territory, man, and getting involved in shit that doesn't belong to them. So Russia invaded Ukraine, okay, because you know Ukraine was heading towards NATO. You see, and the EU. They wanted to grow with the West. They wanted to forge ties with the West. You see, so Putin took the Crimean Peninsula, man, and a war broke out because people in Ukraine favored Putin, because people know how wicked the West is, man. It says here, Ukraine and the West accuse Russia of sending its troops and weapons to back the rebels. Moscow denied that, saying Russians who joined the separatists were volunteers. Okay, so that little war that broke out after they took the Crimean Peninsula, okay, in 2014, okay, those rebels were really volunteers, you see? But Ukraine and the West, they accuse Russia. And here goes Ukraine trying to drink that Babylonian juice. And Russia's really trying to tell them, you don't know what you're doing. You see? Let's read here. For its part, Moscow has strongly criticized the U.S. and its NATO allies for providing Ukraine with weapons and holding joint drills, saying that such moves encourage Ukrainian hawks to try to regain the rebel-held areas by force. So they're going back and forth saying, you're over here providing Ukraine with weapons and holding joint drills. You're trying to get back, land that they seized, okay, that rebels are holding down. At that point in 2014, right? Okay. It says, furthermore, Russian President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly said Ukraine's aspirations to join NATO are a red line and expressed concern about plans by some NATO members to set up military training centers in Ukraine, you see? So NATO, okay, and, is trying to basically back Ukraine. They're undermining what the Russians want to do, you see? But what does it say? As a matter of fact, let's just get it. This is the book of Habakkuk 2 and 5. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man. Neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Okay. This is speaking of what? These Edomites. Okay. Speaking of America. Okay. And we know the Russians are Edomites too, but the scriptures say the house divided against itself will not stand. But they transgress by wine, meaning their philosophies, their beliefs. Okay. And there's a reason why Ukraine wants to join NATO and decline the EU association, the European Union Association, which, all those are allies of America, because they, America's in their ear transgressing by wine. It says neither keep it at home, right? What are these devils doing over there? Who enlarged his desire as hell. They say that they're doing it for liberty and for the countries can join whatever alliances they want. Well, what is it to you? They're just trying to enlarge their desire, their power. Who enlarged his desire as hell and is as death, who cannot be satisfied, right? Everywhere they go, they're going to cause death, confusion, and wickedness. It says, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. See? Salakia. Let's go back. I hope you're still following me. So let's go back because I want to read a little bit more of this transcript and get some more scriptures and then close it out. Okay. It says the United States and our allies, you see, they heap it unto them all people and partners around the world are ready to impose powerful sanctions on and export controls, including actions that did not. Let's see, let's run that back. The United States and our allies and partners around the world are ready to impose powerful sanctions on and export controls. Okay, they want to put sanctions and export controls, including actions that we did not pursue when Russia invaded Crimea and eastern Ukraine in 2014. You see? So they're still beefing about what happened back then. See, it's all a power struggle. That's what these elites, so-called elites of the world, these different kings of the earth, that's really what they're all about. It's power, man. It's like one big monopoly game on a world scale. It says we will put intense pressure on their largest and most significant financial institutions and key industries. You see? This is what these devils are saying. We will put intense pressure on their largest and most significant financial institutions and key industries. So they have the power, okay, to put pressure on financial institutions and their key industries, man. And those industries could be anything, man. Food, oil, gas. Oh, and it's going to go into what they want to do, okay? But they're ready to impose powerful sanctions now. This is Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, wherein who is he? You see? The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So this is what they're saying that they're going to do. You know, America is coming straight out. You know? Hold on. This is Isaiah 14:6. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and none hindereth. Okay? So who has smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke? America. You know, did they not go to war in Vietnam? Did they not go to war with Korea? Did not try to drop a bomb on Hiroshima? You know, in Nagasaki. Okay, was there not a World War One, two, and this will be the Third World War? They have been involved in all kinds of wars all throughout the world. Okay, he who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and none hindereth. Okay, so you know they're about to be done. Okay, them smiting the earth, you know, with the continual stroke. To smite means to hit. They want to hit Russia with sanctions. You see, this, you know, this is speaking of America. Let's go back real quick. You struck the people with endless blows of rage and held the nations in your angry grip with unrelenting tyranny. You see, it says these measures are ready to go as soon. And if Russia moves, will impose long-term consequences that will undermine Russia's ability to compete economically and strategically. You see, this is that hammer. Okay. Oh, Salaki, this is he who smote the people in wrath with the continual stroke. Let's get the hammer scripture. I jumped the gun. This is Jeremiah 50:22. A sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? You see? So they smote the people, okay, with the continual stroke. You know, they're tyrants in the world. The earth is given to the hand of the wicked. This is speaking of America, but here it calls them what? The hammer of the earth. But it's going to be what? It's going to be cut asunder. Okay? Salakia. Where am I at? Okay, the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken, because it's about to be broken. They're about to be cut in half. Their power is waning, really. It says, how has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Okay, because they're about to be destroyed by who? By the Russians. Okay. Also by Iran. Okay, it tells you that in Ezekiel 38, and I just did a lesson on that on this page. Okay, now check this out. It says, listen, and when it comes to Nord Stream 2, the pipeline that would bring natural gas from Russia to Germany, if Russia further invades Ukraine, it will not happen. So they're saying that they're going to stop natural gas from Russia to Germany. Do you think the Russians are going to let that happen? No, they're not. If Russia further invades Ukraine, it will not happen. Okay? Let's get this. Isaiah 10 and 14. So they're gonna, if Russia further invades Ukraine, they're gonna stop the gas pipeline. So let's get this. This is for he saith, Isaiah 10 and 13, for he saith, by the strength of my hand I have done it, and by my wisdom, for I am prudent, and have removed the bounds of the people, and have robbed their treasures. Okay, so they also have removed the bounds of the people. Okay, the United States government, okay, their military has gone into different places and removed the bounds of the people. You know, they're the ones who basically own the world. America is the whore, okay, that sits upon many waters, meaning many countries, many kindreds, tongues, and nations, because they go out throughout the world, you know, spreading their influence, transgressing by wine, taking over countries, removing the boundaries of the people, changing their culture, democratizing everything, if that's even a word, you know. And they think that by their strength they have done this, and by their wisdom, but really the Lord has given them you know, a time to shine right now. Matter of fact, let's get this. This is Isaiah 14 and 16. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? This guy. These people. These are the people, okay, that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms. Okay, here it is. They're telling the Russians that if they continue invading Ukraine, and the only reason they invaded Ukraine in 2014 is because Ukraine was breaking off, okay, from basically Russia's you know, imperial, you know, legacy, you know, and they broke apart. But the Lord said He's going to put hooks in their jaws, okay, and they're going to come back to a Soviet state, them and all their allies, okay, and they're really going to destroy America, man. But these are the people that made the earth to tremble and shake kingdoms, man. These Edomites, these guys. You see, you know, these are the people that take all the natural resources, that tell people what to do, when to do it. You know, put their face on the dollar. Okay. It says, for he saith, by the strength of my hand I have done it. Okay, but you narrowly look upon these Edomites. Okay, because Vladimir Putin, man, he wrestles, man. He takes care of himself, man. That dude, you know, he does MMA. He jumps into cold water. While these Edomites are straight moles, man. You see? It says, by the strength of my hand I have done it, and by my wisdom, for I am prudent, I have robbed the bounds of the people, and have robbed their treasures, and have put down the inhabitants like a valiant man. Yeah, they think that they're brave. They put down the inhabitants, You know, they go to Afghanistan, Iraq. You know, they go to Libya. You know, they go all across the world, raping and robbing and pillaging, and they rob their treasures. Let's look at this word, treasures.
Strong's H6264. Atheed. Atheed.
Prepare, stored up
Second
treasure.
entry. Athood. Athood.
Right. What was that movie? Three Kings. Where they took the gold. Saddam Hussein's hidden gold. Right? But they do that in real life, you know. They do that in real life. This is, I have robbed their treasures and I have put down the inhabitants like a valiant man. And my hand hath found as a nest the riches of the people. And as one gathereth eggs that are left, have I gathered all the earth. And there was none that moved the wing or opened the mouth or peeped. Okay? They like, in their minds, they have found the nest of the riches of the people. Okay? And they gather the eggs that are left. Okay? They, you know. And nobody says a word. Nobody moves. Nobody does nothing. Now, these guys, Salakio, are saying that they're not going to let the natural gas of travel, that pipeline, from Russia to Germany. Okay, this is them being that valiant man, so to speak. But really, you're going to look upon them and narrowly say, this is the guy that make nations to tremble. These are the people that call the shots. Okay, and nobody said nothing or nobody did nothing. Well, you know, you're sadly mistaken. It says, while I will not send American servicemen to fight Russia and Ukraine, we have supplied the Ukrainian military with equipment to help them defend themselves. You see? So this is how America sticks their nose into things that does not belong to them. Is that we have provided training and advice and intelligence for the same purpose. And make no mistake, the United States will defend every inch of NATO territory with the full force of American power. An attack against one NATO country is an attack against all of us. And the United States' commitment to Article 5 is sacrosanct. Already, in response to Russia's buildup of troops, I have sent additional U.S. forces to bolster NATO's eastern flank. Several of our allies have also announced that they'll add forces and capabilities to ensure deterrence and defense along NATO's eastern flank. We will also continue to conduct military exercises with our allies and partners to enhance defensive readiness. And if Russia invades, we will take further steps to reinforce our presence in NATO, reassure for our allies, and deter further aggression. You see? So, yeah, they're ready to defend, you know, one of their allies, which I'm not sure. Don't quote me, but I don't really think they're an ally. But them, you know, helping them with intelligence and weapons and sending troops, okay, to quote unquote bolster NATO's eastern flank is them getting involved. And that's like covertly undermining, or basically undermining, Russia, man. Okay. Let me read this, and you can read this on this is the article, but let's read this. Furthermore, Russian President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly said Ukraine's aspirations to join NATO are a red line and expressed concern about plans by some NATO members to set up military training centers in Ukraine. This, he has said, would give them military foothold in the region even without Ukraine joining NATO. You see, what does Russia want? It is more about what Russia doesn't want. Russia does not want Ukraine in NATO, and has said as much in its list of security demands, which were set to the U.S. last December. This demands included a halt to any NATO drills near Russia's borders. Russia don't want the U.S. around them, man. They're like, get from around me. You know, many of these ultimatums have been slammed as non-starters by the West. It also wants NATO to withdraw from Eastern Europe, you see? In December, Putin said Russia was seeking guarantees that would exclude any further NATO moves eastward in the deployment of weapon systems that threaten us in close vicinity to Russian territory. Right. Russia wants, you know, to be guaranteed. You see, for NATO to move eastward, okay, and give weapons and be close to their territory. You see? So that's what's going on, man. Let's see. Let's go back to here. It says Jeremiah 15:22, a sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Okay, and Babylon, this is speaking about America. I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou wast not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord. Okay, so there's a trap that's being laid for America, because them getting involved is really gonna poke, you know, Russia to ultimately destroy this place. Okay. It says, wait a minute. Yeah. Okay. This is 9, Jeremiah 9. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country. Okay. Let's see. Northward. Okay. This is speaking about Russia. Okay. Okay. North country is speaking about Russia, because Babylon wasn't destroyed. The Medo-Persians, they took down Babylon, okay, but Babylon was never destroyed. Okay, this is a future prophecy, but yet they're not going to say Russia and America, because this was written, you know, this is talking about the ancient past. The prophets spoke about things in their time to be able to paint the picture. You see? It says, for law raise and cause to come up against Babylon. So this is the Yahweh Bashem Yahshai is going to do this. An assembly of great nations from the north country. And they shall set themselves in array against her. Let's look at this word array. And for, you know, a lot of you people out there who don't know, Russia is doing their homework. Russia has been making allies. Okay. They're allied with China, Iran. Okay. This is that assembly of great nations. And Russia's like, you know, telling everyone to just chill. I got this.
Strong's H, 6186. Arach. Arach.
To arrange, set, or put, or lay in order, set in array, prepare, order, ordain, handle, furnish, esteem, equal, direct, compare. Right. They're actually, you know, being a guard unto these other nations, but they're telling everyone to get prepared. And that's why they've been trying to deter nuclear warfare. Okay, but America is so proud that they don't see that there's a trap being laid, because they're not the greatest nation, not anymore. And they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence shall she be taken. Their arrow shall be as a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. Okay. These arrows are speaking about what? They're speaking about nuclear missiles. Again, we're speaking about, you know, the ancient world. This is how they described it.
Strong's H, 2671. Hates. Hates.
Their arrow shall be as a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And Chaldea, okay, which were the wise men of Babylon, shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith the Lord. You see? And Chaldea, which were the wise men of Babylon. Let me see. A couple more scriptures and I'll end it out. I don't want to be too long.
Strong's H, 3778. Kasdim. Kasdim,
Those persons considered the wisest in the land, right? In Babylon, the wisest in the land. But this is speaking about what? So-called wise people of Babylon. And Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith the Lord. Because ye were glad, because ye rejoiced, O ye destroyers of mine heritage, because ye are grown fat as the heifer at grass, and bellow as bulls. Right? America is the place where the Israelites were put into hardcore slavery. We were made slaves in this land, and they became, fat as the heifer at grass. Okay, a heifer is what? A big cow. It's just chewing on grass, just, in the pasture, living it up. That's these devils, you see? Your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness and a dry land and a desert. Because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited. Speaking about America, because ultimately the Lord is causing these things to happen. But it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at her plagues. You see? And the nuclear warfare, okay, that's a plague itself. But you look at the C-19, other nations are looking at, China's already back to normal. Russia supposedly has a better jab than the U.S., okay? So everybody's looking at Babylon, and they're starting to become astonished, and they're going to hiss at her plagues. Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about, all ye that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she has sinned against the Lord. Shout against her round about, she hath given her hand, her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down. For it is the vengeance of the Lord, take vengeance upon her, as she had done, do unto her. You see? Do unto her. Okay, so what she has done, is gonna be done unto her. When she finishes to spoil, she will be spoiled. The scriptures speak about that. Matter of fact, let's get that one. I think it's in Isaiah. Let's see. Right, Isaiah 33:1. Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled. When thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. Okay, so woe unto America. They spoil, and they were not spoiled. They dealt treacherously, okay, and others didn't deal treacherously with thee. See, Putin is trying to get into talks and trying to deter war, but what America doesn't understand is that they're so proud, you see, and they have striven against the Lord. They have done, everything that is contrary to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. The morality here is very wicked, and even America speaks on that. He was calling America satanic pedophiles, you see. So, America's treacherous. That's what a lot of people don't understand. When you watch videos, you look at the comments, and people are saying, why does a man want nuclear war? And well, the Lord is working, okay, and stirring up the spirit of the Medes, okay, which when you go into that, it's speaking about Russia as well, okay, prophetically. The Lord works on the minds of the kings of the earth. The scriptures speak about that as well. I think it's in the book of Psalms. But this is all, okay, for America's dealing. For spoiling, and not being spoiled, for dealing treacherously, and them not dealing treacherously with them. Yeah, America's not fair. You see? What is this? She has sinned against the Lord, right? You see? Salakia. Well, I'm going to end it out, Lord willing. This was edifying. I know it was a little bit all over the place. Like I said, you can read these articles, okay, that and this was 2 years ago, but it was a very good article on why Ukraine and Russia, Russia invaded Ukraine, because really NATO's undermining the region, the security of the Russians by setting up shop with one of their neighbors. Okay, but here it is. America say that they want peace, for all their allies, and don't want nobody spoil. But that's a lie, because even the inception of America is wicked. What does it say here? This is Job 24:1. Seeing times are not hidden from the Almighty. They do not know him, not see Salakia. Do they not know him, not see his days? Some remove the landmarks. They violently take away flocks and feed thereof. They drive away the ass of the fatherless. They take the widow's ox for a pledge. They turn the needy out of the way. The poor of the earth hide themselves together. You see? The poor of the earth hide themselves together. So America's proud, man. And America needs to get taken down for all this treacherous dealing. Whispering to these other nations, trying to heap up all these other nations against, their peoples and their neighbors. And there's hypocrites here in America. All right. So just a little bit more on this. Lord willing, knows edifying. Shalom.